Thanks.
Some of those came from my neighbor who lives on the street. I live on the street too. My name's David.
Cool, Jasmine.
Jasmine, hi, nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Okay, Jasmine, I got somebody. I had a viewer, and they're still around, I bet. So sometimes it doesn't tell me accurately. But anyway, we are often procasted onto the live stream Occupy Portland website, our media channel, and I believe that's who we've got now. So you are?
So my name is Jasmine Stuckey, and I work for Columbia Riverkeeper on the proposed coal export issues, or stopping proposed coal export along the northwest coast. Currently there's 5 proposals from Bellingham, as far north as Bellingham, Washington, to as far south as Coos Bay, Oregon. Just a few weeks ago, there were 6 terminals, but one of them dropped out in Grays Harbor, Washington, because they decided that coal was not the commodity that was most profitable, or it was just not the best economic investment for them. So we do feel like we're winning this campaign. We know that there's better things that our ports can export than a dirty fossil fuel that we in the United States have decided to decline and stop using.
What about Kits Hubbard? Is he like on the fence? Are we getting any closer?
So what Kits Hubbard's done is he's actually written a very strong letter that's available for everyone to view on the PowerPass Coal website. It's powerpasscoal.org. And in that letter, Kits Hubbard asked the federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers, to conduct what's called an area-wide environmental impact statement. And that's an environmental impact statement, a document that would encompass every coal export proposal in one, and places along the rail line. So Portland would be included in that. Impacts to Portland, and what a terminal would look like in St. Helens. That includes a terminal in Longview, because these are ports that are right across the river from each other, and they need to be looked at as one instead of individual. So that's what Governor Kits Hubbard has done, and it's actually a very bold move, and we're excited that he's done that. This is a process that,
The cowboy doctor strikes again.
Yeah.
So let me say that I am familiar with environmental impact statements from the genetic engineering perspective, and the one that was done on alfalfa, despite the 4 years and the strong conclusions toward the negative, was edited in the summary after political pressure to be positive, even though everything you read in the document says no.
Yeah.
So what is your view on the power of an environmental impact statement?
Yeah, so the environmental impact statement, going for the area-wide environmental impact statement, something that would be encompassing from the mines to the point where they're put on the ships to get exported overseas, is very powerful. But it isn't a no. And really what I'm looking for, what Columbia Riverkeeper is looking for, is stopping coal export terminals. And that's why we are here, today with the neighbors who live 1 block away from the train tracks that could be seeing coal cars coming through, 1.5-mile long coal trains 2 to 4 times a day. And we're starting at this level because these people, it's really the community that has to be the ones that say, we don't want this.
Beautiful. What about dust from the trains? Are we endangering people from the coal trains with the dust?
So what we know about coal dust, so coal trains are 1.5 miles long.
Oh, wait. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you to be really loud.
Okay.
Because I hate to have the viewers catch part of this. They're going to be sad, but...
Okay. So I need to speak about like this?
Well, that's why I moved in closer, and as the music gets louder, just pick it up a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
So coal trains are 1.5 miles long. They're some of the longest trains on America's rail. They're some of the heaviest trains on America's rail. And coal trains are uncovered. The reason that you can't cover coal trains, and why we're not advocating for that as a band-aid solution, is because the coal from the Powder River Basin is highly combustible. So if you cover it, you have the risk of it spontaneously combusting. And we're also not looking for band-aid solutions. We're trying to stop coal exports to protect the Northwest from coal. So they're 1.5 miles long, and what we know about the coal dust that comes off these uncovered coal trains are from industry studies done by Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF, the rail companies. And they've done studies on coal dust because they are the ones who are most economically impacted by coal dust along their rail lines, because coal comes off in such huge numbers, in such huge quantities, that it causes derailments. It makes cleanup very costly. Just in the month of July, we saw a dozen coal train derailments, and the reason why coal trains, as opposed to other trains, derail more frequently is because the coal dust gets into the ballast, so into the inner workings of the tracks, prevents drainage, and that causes the shifting of the rail line, so that when you have, heavy rains like we do in the Northwest, and a bunch of coal dust in the tracks, the steel in the rail line shifts, and that can cause derailments. You also see derailments happen when there's heavy shifts, extreme temperature shifts. So what we saw on the East Coast this past summer, climate change causing the warmest summers that we've ever seen. We're seeing more trains derail because as the temperatures rise, the steel expands and coal trains derail.
Wow.
There's been 4 deaths this summer from coal trains derailing. And
welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, so they're not good neighbors, and coal trains aren't good neighbors, and coal companies aren't good neighbors.
Who are the coal companies?
We're fighting everyone from Peabody Coal, Peabody and Arch Coal, some of the biggest coal companies in the world. Amber Energy, an Australian company, and Kinder Morgan is another company that's invested in the coal terminals. And then down in Coos Bay, we actually don't know who the coal company is because the port of Coos Bay is refusing public records requests that groups like Beyond Toxics, small nonprofit in Eugene, and big groups like Sierra Club have requested. They're refusing to release those records, and they're asking for somewhere around $20,000 to release the records because they say they have to go in and remove all the confidential statements. And that statement's been struck down by the court.
What kind of confidential statements do you have when requesting coal export?
Well, what we've seen across the Northwest is that these coal companies have, especially here in Oregon and St. Helens, when Kinder Morgan went into negotiations with the Port of St. Helens, they went into negotiations years prior to the public knowing about it. And they did it in ways like this. They would meet with 2 port commissioners or 1 port commissioner, but never 3, never 4, because when you meet with multiple port commissioners, it becomes public record. So by skirting around public records laws, they were allowed to create the deal they wanted, present it to the port commissioners, so that when the public first heard about it on January 25th of last year at a public hearing, before any public testimony was allowed to sink in, the port had already approved it because they'd already been meeting with the coal companies for years.
So they don't want our opinion.
Don't want our opinion. We know the coal trains are bad neighbors. We know the coal companies are bad neighbors. We just have to put our foot down and say that this is not where we want our global future. We do not want to provide the next step for our global future.
So here we have neighbors who would be neighbors of those coal lines if this goes through, juicing apples and pears, which is as good a reason as any. Mm-hmm. But it's I was like, we're what? How did you decide to have a juicing?
The cider press against coal came about because some of the residents of this neighborhood, of this house in particular, came to me and said, we want to talk to our neighbors about coal exports. And what better way to do it than to celebrate the fall bounty with these pear trees we see behind me.
It's beautiful.
So it's sort of a little block party where everyone's getting to meet. There's some people who just moved into the neighborhood. There's some people who've been fighting coal all across town who came here to talk with people. And we've got music, and we've got face painting, and pretty soon we'll talk to everyone about coal and what people can do.
It's fabulous. So do you have a website that you'd like our viewers to go to?
So if you want information about the work that we're up to, it's ColumbiaRiverKeeper.org.
ColumbiaRiverKeeper.org.
Correct. And there's also a group that came out of Occupy Portland and Portland Rising Tide that started working on coal exports, and that group is called the Community Alliance Against Coal. And we meet every Monday night at 6:30, or every other Monday night at 6:30 p.m. at St. Francis at Occupy headquarters.
Okay, so OccupyPortlandCalendar.org
should have it.
Make sure it does, okay?
Okay.
Write them.
Great. So we'll be there Monday night at 6:30 talking about coal exports and how we're going to resist them.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. It's great to meet you.